It's February the 12th, 2 p.m., and we are ready for episode number 8 of Started Frame. One. Hello, everybody. We're pretty dark in here. Let me just adjust the camera. And we are ready to roll. Oh, wow, slide adjustments here. And I think we're about good to go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 8. Holy moly, it's number 8. My name is Andy. I'm a 2D animator and illustrator. And I'm very happy you made it today. The music you were just listening to is from two guys from Germany. They're called Bolz and Knecht. Check out their homepage if you like their music. They were kind enough to let me use their music for this streaming. And today we are gonna have a look at KRITA again, the software we started to use in the last frame. It's completely free drawing software that can be used for frame-by-frame animation, and it was a lot of fun to start with the program. Today we're gonna see how the cleanup process will look like in the software. If you haven't seen the stream before, this is your first time, I basically share my workflow during that stream with animation. I'm a complete self-taught animator, so whatever I show you is not the ultimate recipe, it's what worked for me during my 4 years of experience in frame-by-frame animation. But I'm totally open for suggestions when it comes to anything related to what you see here, what I'm doing. If you know anything about the program, if you know other approaches for the animation, feel free to share it in the chat or comments afterwards. I'd love to get into dialogue and learn from each other to create this whole thing, and to do something together here. All right. So we're gonna have a look at KRITA here. This is the user interface. Let me change the layout so you can see what I see. Perfect. All right. Another thing we are missing. I started to do this last stream. People's reaction was quite positive, so let's do this as well for today. And here comes smoothing music. Copyright-free stream lo-fi, DMCA-free, directly from Spotify. So I'm gonna keep that in the background. Check in the house. I am very good, my friend. How are you? So nice to see you back here. How have you been these days? I hope you're ready for the cleanup. Let's take a look at... Oh, I have to get into the whole shortcut thing. Watching and working. Are you working at home, or are you working on something on your own stuff? Would be interesting. I can imagine, like, when you're working right now, the music is kind of too much. That's why I always thought at the beginning, working at home on 3D project. Are you studying? All right, at the university. Brilliant. What kind of study is it? When you say you got a 3D project, 3D animation, nice. You're working in Blender right now? Did you get any software recommendations from your university to work in 3D? Substance Painter. Never heard of that. Oh man, there's so many softwares out there. It's pretty cool because I also think once you get into one software and you keep it the same technique or stuff you're working on, it's pretty easy to switch software because the principles are mostly the same. That's why it was really easy to start off with KRITA, as I knew some of Adobe's Animate and Photoshop, so there are a few things that you might want to look up and search, and hope I have your support, Jack, like last time you were a big help. It's used for texturing video game assets. Alright, nice. Okay, I just figured I probably wanna mute my phone. So I figured the more I get into the streaming, the less I care about the perfection. Although I'm still like 1 hour before streaming, I'm getting like into the mindset and preparing stuff. But as you see, the phone's still not silenced, but well. All right, let's see. What I wanted to check out first is I saw that there is actually the possibility of I saw something, a vector layer. Look at that. And it seems this is something completely new I haven't done so far. If you know anything about what I'm doing, glad if you can help me out whenever I'm stuck. So I create this vector layer, which sounds interesting, as vectors always sound flexible and less consuming. Adam is also on YouTube chat. Hey Adam, how are you doing? Nice that you came back. You've been here yesterday, right? Check, I had a spontaneous experiment going on yesterday night and started to stream. And Adam, who's right now in the YouTube chat, was also present. All right, now let's see what tools we can hear. I saw some kind of things here that only were allowed on vector layers, I think. I don't know if I can. Let's just use a brush on. Let's block out first the other ones. So let's see, let's call that vector cleanup. Am I allowed? The brush tool cannot paint on this layer. Please select the paint layer or mask. Okay, so that is unfortunate. I don't wanna paint with the. What am I doing here? Okay. All right. Okay. Now, I thought this is kind of the pen tool that you have in Photoshop, where you only can make anchor points and make Bezier curves. Okay. So this seems like. So nice, Adam. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Let's see. Look at that. Here are tool options. So what I basically don't like is the calligraphy thing. I'd like to have it more based on pressure. Graphics pen, what's that? No difference so far. Mass, okay, use tablet angle, use tablet pressure. Thinning, maybe let's get thinning to 0. Okay. What is the width doing? Interesting as well, I don't get to change the size in this toolbar here. So what's happening when I put in 60? Apparently it's kind of the thickest and maybe the thinnest part of the stroke. Oh, thinning is 1 now. Okay, now it's really thin. So I don't want that. There may be some kind of a shape option for the... no. Fixation may be some kind of smoothing out. The mass... what's the mass doing? Oh, it's dragging behind. So this feels like the smoothing of Photoshop. Let's see. All right, Adam asks if I have any advices on drawing. Most people tell you just draw more, but I guess there are some ways to learn draw and capture gestures with forms. All right, you thought about tracing over poses. There may maybe good idea. Let me try to think of... Well, gesture drawing is always a good thing. But also very frustrating when you don't get the anatomy right, which I'm still struggling on my own. Anatomy is like a thing I think you can improve all your life. And I'm not sure if you have checked out the force drawing from Mike Mattesi. I was talking about it on previous streams. I think his way is a very interesting approach, as he basically reduces everything on just a few lines. This may be interesting because you don't put too much effort in one pose and just can switch quite frequently, instead of staying a lot of time on one drawing where you get all the details and then figure out afterwards that it's not really looking that good. Check on Twitch. You two guys may hook up as well. Says Adam. Jack says tracing over poses is a great way to start. Try without tracing. I heard about that technique from other illustrators. Like they just take reference poses for their illustrations and then draw over them. I heard about that with hands, for example. I never did that, and I started with anatomy. Like, we're now talking just about gestures, right? Gesture drawing. I started with anatomy about 4 years back when I started as well animating. So I went right parallelly way deeper into drawing and also frame by frame animation. And it was really frustrating. And I was on off doing again. Then when I came back, I figured, oh well, there's something that I learned the last time I went into this. I'm really struggling with the answer, Adam, as I would love to give you this really cool answer and tip. But I suppose what most people say is some kind of true. And but when you do gesture drawing, I think it's a very cool way to first try to capture the pose with a few lines without worrying about too much if your drawing is precious. That's why I really like the force drawing technique by Mike Mattesi. Definitely recommend it. And to drawing more and more is always a good thing to do, especially like I wanted to get better in drawing from imagination, and there's so much stuff that can be imagined that I try to bit by bit draw whatever I feel could be an interesting motive to draw. Yeah, Jack says what works best really depends on the person. I definitely agree. What is pretty cool is having different approaches and try those approaches and then figure out for yourself which approach works best for you. So I definitely agree with asking people what their approach is and then trying it out, and which doesn't mean that it's the best approach. So just 1 second, I tried to delete this. I'm on the vector layer. I did the lasso tool. I do the... Let's see, maybe I have to... No. And now I have a weird red rectangle there, which is now active. Oh! I try delete. Okay, delete seems to work, backspace not, and I can now get those different strokes separately as they were one element. Okay, that's good. I'd like to know how I delete like everything on the frame. And also pretty cool thing I think for drawing is really what you also said, like capture gestures with forms. Definitely don't get hooked up on weird details. I always like the idea of like sculpting from stone or something, where you have this huge brick and you won't go for the statue first. Work on one hand until every detail is finished and then continue with your other body. Like you break it down and then you shape it, and the more and more you get the shape out of it, you add details. And I think the same thing works for drawing, or is the best for drawing, as you can easily see in the early state if your pose is working, like we did on the animation stuff here. So let's get back on this thing here. Advanced color set, and like graphic pen. Okay, now it's getting already tired. What is? Can I actually? Ah, right. Okay, now I'm wondering if I now can change the width, for example. I put in 150. No, it doesn't change. This way, for example, works on Animate. Like I just use on Animate, I can choose the element I drew, like the stroke. I change back to the tool where I used it, and then I can make adjustments. For example, changing the stroke thickness. This is not possible here. There's a clear layer button you can add to the toolbar. Check. You son of a gun. So you can add to the toolbar. Let's see if maybe you also have some kind of cool, how are they called? Cool dockers. For vector layers. I'm gonna have a sip out of my ghost busting coffee. What's the vector library? Oh well, look at that. KRITA brush presets, icon library brush. Alcohol marker. Now what will that be? I don't know. Not sure. I'm not really sure if this is the right tool I want to use. But which one will it be? I don't know, this looks like a... Okay, now I did some kind of a mask here, so this is not what I want. Colorized mask editing tool. Dynamic brush tool, that sounds promising. No. This layer not. Okay, so I suppose all those tools are not... Well, this works. What is this? Oh, look at that. That looks... Now that looks better. Okay. What's this called? The freehand path tool. I think we did it. Toolbar, brushes, and stuff. All right, now Jack is giving me instructions. Settings, configure. You say settings configure toolbar. Okay, there you go. Oh, sweet. So let's type in clear. Oh, brushes and stuff. Brushes and stuff toolbar. Okay, that's the toolbar. Ah, so now I can hide brushes and stuff. Well, I wanna check if I have what options I get with the freehand. Press curve, raw. Let's see if the raw. That's the raw cycle. That's the curve. Okay. And the straight. All right. So raw, as I know it from... Oh wow, what is that? No, okay. Very interesting. What I don't get is like I have the tool. I have the lasso tool. I get this stuff done. And now I want to delete everything on the frame. It's not that intuitive. Like if I do backspace or delete normally in every program, you just clear your content. Let's see, actions here, mode, outline selection tool. You drag the clear from the left to the right side. Below that, he says. Below that, okay, I wasn't. Let's try it again. Configure toolbar. Clean up, remove files, clear. So I now. Alright, okay, now I get what you say. So now if I. It's not cleaning up. Not doing what I'm telling it to do. So the lasso tool seems absolutely not affecting. Oh, Jack, don't worry, man. I'm more than glad you. Thanks a lot for your explanations there and helping out. Hey, Sergey, how are you doing? Today is KRITA? Yes. Well, we are about to figure out how to use a vector layer, and I found out that the free path tool may be the tool of our choice. I wanna get this. I don't know. I feel I have to rearrange my workspace. So I have more space on the tool options here. And when I use that one, fill, not filled, outline, brush. Okay. Do I have any? Okay. Now we are still on straight here. All right. Okay, now I can activate again this one and see. All right, okay. One step closer. And now I want to see, can I activate this one? Oh, it would have been so awesome just... Oh, thickness. Yes, look, you can change the thickness of the stroke afterwards. This is very, very cool. And okay, Jack is not really familiarized with vector layers either, so we're sitting here in the same boat. Now I want to get my pressure sensitivity. What was that one here? Dynamic brush tool. What's the difference? Okay, I'm not allowed to use that one. And we're still here. Let's see. I feel there are no options here for are those presets affecting this tool? White marker? I don't think so, no. Brush presets, okay. Where could we get some pressure sensitivity here? Freehand brush tool, brush smoothing. We hadn't had brush smoothing before. I don't. What is that? Can we draw with that? Okay, no, this is more. Okay, we're stuck with this tool for vectors. There must, I suppose, there should be some kind of a possibility to Let's see. Anything here? No. Brush presets. Those look to me like things that won't work with vector layers anyways, so I feel like my user interface is getting a little bit too cluttered here. And the vector libraries, that's what we had. Oh, this is the vector library, so I'm not really sure how they're supposed to affect my tools, or which tool. If I would have to draw some kind of a vector here. See? And now I can apply some of those presets. Well, I'm thinking about doing it now not vector, and probably gonna start to investigate a little bit to not just being clicking around the software for 2 hours. Oh, Adam asks, when have you started to draw? Oh, that's a little bit difficult. Like, the most boring answer maybe nobody wants to hear is like, I've been drawing all my life. Just some kind of true, and I would say actively really trying to improve my skills has started around, yeah, let's say 4 years ago, I think. When I stopped seeing, well, when I started actually to do frame by frame animation and really got into the whole spirit again. I always been a fan of having sketchbooks, although they've never been consistently sketchbooks. They change from sketchbook to concept books to ideas to diary to sketchbook to whatever. And I did a sketchbook. My last sketchbook I started, sorry, what do we have here? Layers locked, okay. My last sketchbook I started a year ago, something like that. where I put constantly new drawings in, and it's getting more and more complete. But yeah, for like in those 4 years ago, I really started to try to do anatomy, like real characters. And what else did I do? Trying to do characters out of proportions. That's exactly what a sketchbook should be. It is like you. It's always a very difficult when you do a sketchbook and you treat it like this precious thing where you won't allow yourself to do crappy art. And I'm still trying to do this, but what I figured is your art or your piece for the sketchbook, the key is to finish it. Just even it looks shitty at all, and you cannot imagine how many times I just felt so frustrated during the process at one point. And then suddenly I continued working on the sketch, and the more you render it out, the better it got. And although you don't really consider it as your favorite drawing afterwards, I think there's always a learning. You always learn something within the process. So therefore, I would say finish your drawings. Like, although they look crappy, but at least you have it in your sketchbook. It will shine. Let's see, basic. Let's do some. What's about the smoothing distance? Okay. Maybe I can put in distance so you see the. I don't know if you see. No, you don't see the tip of my pen and where the stroke actually is. There's a distance between those, and I think he's trying to figure out where the pen is going. So I think the stabilizer. How's the stabilizer doing? Oh wow. Okay. So it's also dragging behind, calculating where your brush is going next, and then trying to smooth it out. Not really a fan of this basic. Let's do basic, and we can see what else we. Like, here are so many options. It's pretty cool. What does that word even mean? Pressure realm. Okay. Okay. First stroke for today. And we start with our cleanup. It's pressure in, okay. I think we now go with what we have so far. And what I said in the first episode, in the first stream. Now I don't have that much of a smoothing, and I feel like my lines are still like very wiggly. So to start drawing, I just start to warm up. Just very loose and get an... Oh wow, this now. Okay. Just to get your hand loose. And sometimes I do this like for too long because it's quite relaxing. So now that we're back on the brush tool, I hope we can just... Yes. And here we go. And on Photoshop, I compare it now with Photoshop as it's pixel based as well. I developed this process of cleanup in Photoshop where I actually created a so-called action, which is basically just a few commands that you can do in Photoshop stuck together, and once you hit a button, he runs all the functions that you saved within this action. So I always do a selection of a certain area with the magic wand tool, and I think it's called like that. And then in the action I basically say extend selection by 2 frames, fill selection with foreground color, and deselect. And that's basically the thing that I do when I clean up in Photoshop. So as unfortunately it's not possible to just, I don't know, I think it's not possible to just fill in areas with a color. But I've seen a lot of artists doing that this way with these actions. And once I saw it, I tried it out, and it's pretty good too. Check, are you working on anything specific? Or are you just jamming? Well, you said the program you use is for texturing videos and game assets. Are you working on games or something like that? Which is a pretty interesting industry as well. There's this animation software, I think it's called Spine, which apparently is used quite often. Game art design, you studied game art design, 3D animation, nice. Do you know Spine? Have you ever worked with it? I don't know if this actually is working as well for 3D, as I've seen that you can rig characters with it, But I think I've only seen 2D art so far. And I have friends in the game industry, and they recommended me as well Spine if you want to enter the gaming industry as an animator. Spine seems like... Never heard of it? Alright. So probably, maybe it's just 2D based. But as I said, I'm not sure. I've seen a few very impressive animations where you think, oh, whoa. This... Where basically the art lies in the rigging as well, I suppose. Beside the animation. How detailed should we do the wheels? Should we put in another? Probably. Okay, number 1. Here we just duplicate later once we have filled in the color as well. As here it's the same pose, just moving across the x-axis, so I won't do all the drawings again when they stay the same. Like, we want to save time as much as possible. Just figured we didn't put in any shadows at all here. Well, we're gonna add them later. Still already trying to figure out what I'm gonna do during the summertime with the streaming, because now we've got temperatures where I easily can keep the window closed, but I'm sure within 2 months you will see me sweating like hell in here if I don't open the windows, as the computer and all that stuff heats up quite easily. And the problem with the open window is that there's always some there's always noise. So I'm not sure, maybe I should consider air conditioner. But I think those electric air conditioning, they consume crazy. But what you gonna do? And normally in August, something like August, it's even, I cannot even be in the studio here. So actually wintertime is streaming time. I feel there's not enough pressure. Like the lines, they look too similar. Let's try a little bit of the settings. I'm very intrigued by this curve here. I don't know what happens when you do something like this. Okay. Here I get a sketch pad. What is that? Okay, now it stays like very thin until I pretty much push it. Let's try this. So I'm gonna delete that. This is basically just a decision, as I already had quite a clear style in mind. Oh, look at that. Erase a switch opacity. That could be the thing that we were talking last time. That I would love to have a different opacity. Oh, wow, look at that. I don't know, check if you have seen it. That was basically what we were trying to figure out last time. So there is a option here to switch size and opacity between the eraser and brush tool. That is great. So already learned something here. Okay, now with the settings I have so far, it seems if I don't push down the pen enough, it doesn't catch up the signal. You've learned something new? Okay, so this stream is already fulfilled its purpose, at least for the two of us. Now let's see with the settings. Now I have some kind of a curve from getting for the pressure of the pen. But the thing is, now I feel like I have to, I'm not even getting too much pressure on the pen, as it gets too thick too easily. So I don't know, I think this would be some kind of the hardness of the pen. This makes sense, like you have to push quite hard. Okay, now I get it, because here no, this looks good. Let's get back. That's a problem now. We really want to define the right stroke, as it gonna gives the, you like the S curve as well. Yeah, it's something that I also like, even unconsciously see a lot in my settings. Okay. See. Like I really want to get a stroke where I get the beginning and at the ends quite a thin line, without being too cautious about how to draw this line. That makes sense. Like some presets, they force you to draw like this, and you cannot draw just slightly like this, because it won't figure out too much difference in the stroke width. What's kind of disturbing is, although my line is pretty thin due to the pressure, like my, I don't know if you see that, yeah, my symbol here, like this, the circle that represents where the tip of my pen is, seems huge, and it's kind of disturbing. Maybe there is an option how the tip of our pen is gonna be visualized. I think in Photoshop you can see or the tip just represented by some circle or a symbol of what tool you use, which never was really what I was looking for. Because normally I know what tool I'm using, and I would rather know where my pen exactly is and where am I drawing. You don't think there's a fix for that? So there are some things in life you just have to accept, live with them. And a big circle around my pen tip would be considered as something I can live with. But who knows, maybe there is a word, something. And regarding the drawing techniques and how to get better at drawing, I backed a pretty cool Kickstarter project I heard about on Instagram. And it's basically a series of books where you just can find all kinds of different studies, how to draw a dinosaur head, how to draw different kind of boxes, how to draw eyes, reflections on eyes and whatsoever. And it's called How to Think When You Draw, something like that. And it's the same principle, like he starts to break down the things into simple shapes at the beginning and then build on top of them. It gives you tips what you may have in mind when drawing certain stuff. So that's a book I really can recommend. You cannot purchase the book, apparently. It's only available once in a while as a Kickstarter project, which is an interesting approach. And I think they made one of the biggest backed up project, I think. Or at least they were shooting over the goal like crazy. People wanted that books, so you could get, depending on how much money you back for the project, you got one book, or I purchased all three of them. And he's about to do a fourth book. I don't know when this is coming out, but yeah, how to think when drawing. Maybe something interesting for people like Adam who start or who want to improve their drawing skills. And there as well, and it's so clear in the book that the guy who made the book just studied different topics on drawing, and that's a thing that I also heard a lot in podcasts. Just you have to get it in your system in order to be able to recall this information and draw something like that from memory. Because if you never drew it and you just think you can draw it by thinking about this certain element, may work until a certain level, or you may not even have to study it like study crazy. But I totally agree, it's way easier to draw some kind of object if you drew it before, and maybe with a reference. Then afterwards you won't need the reference anymore because you already did it once. So it's in your system. And although you may be more into abstract characters or whatsoever, like there's so much stuff that you can draw. There are trees, there are mountains, there are all kind of objects that if you haven't drew them before, it may be difficult to draw them from imagination. And I'm not talking about a mug or something like that. I suppose at a certain point you will be able to draw a mug out of imagination, but I had a few projects where I, for example, had to do some illustrations for a product that was in a glass bottle, and to actually be able to capture the reflections of a glass bottle, specific glass bottle. I started to just draw a bottle, and then I thought, well, there could be here, there could be reflection in there and whatsoever. But then I thought, well, let's get those kind of bottles and look at them and analyze where are the reflections. And this is basically already studying those elements in order to make sure you draw them correctly. So now I have this information in my head and I can draw those bottles, specific bottles, because I was analyzing actively where the reflections are going. And actually analyzing how those reflections are actually created, why they are at a certain point. I also find myself, this does apply as well on your everyday, day-to-day, when you're outside, wherever you are. Like I feel like I'm always, well, I got told that I'm staring at people a lot without even realizing it. And I think that is because I love going to the city, and especially here in Barcelona, there's so many different characters walking around, and sometimes it's just so inspiring. And this may be like a weird style or whatever, like sometimes you're just fascinated of what you see, and then you stare at it. And I think while I stare, I just analyze and I save information to maybe use it afterwards in kind of a drawing or something like that. Especially with like I always love when I see those extreme kind of, you would probably call them hipsters, that have this specific, totally worked out style, authentically, and it's sometimes like, whoa, what is that? Although I would never wear certain things, it's so interesting to see those things and use them. So I'm always, and you can do this not only with persons in real life. Like when you watch a building, a car. Like this year I started the first time I've ever drew a car. Well, a car that doesn't look like a Tetris brick with two wheels. So yeah, I went to the city and just sat on a bank and drew the cars that were in front of me and learned so much about cars. Like there's some kind of common things in all kind of cars that you can use to start and then get into more specifics. And once you understood all the specifics, you can start to build on that and do your own thing and experimentation. So Jack says sketching people at coffee shops, he loves the idea. Only ever done it once. It's a great way to get faster at drawing before your subject moves. Absolutely. The cool thing is, what I figured now, on the, well, here in Barcelona it's the metro, like the subway, or in so many places, like everywhere, people are so absorbed with by their phones, so they just look on their phones, and you don't even have to have precaution that they may see you, the weirdo that just looks at them and draws them. So they're basically not even seeing you, which helps a lot. And definitely, like, the time factor is a pretty huge thing. The other thing, I'm not a big fan of the zoo, but I'm playing with the idea going to the zoo just to do drawings of animals, as they never. Well, it depends what you draw. I don't know which artist it was. He says like he draws like several animals at the same time. He just looks for a quite diplomatic spot where he just can turn around all the time. Once the animal disappears or whatever, he goes to the next one and hopes he's more or less at the pose he started to draw. And if everything goes wrong, apparently the rhinos are a very grateful motive, as they don't move at all. So that could be a good approach, like being a specialist in rhinos. And I suppose this is the fastest way to get specialized in a specific animal. You want to choose the rhino. Yeah, but I find it very interesting, the drawing from real life, and especially maybe from moving images, moving objects, as you have this time pressure. But in general, drawing from real life, you always have the task to break down what you see in front of you to its most basic elements or shapes. And I find this kind of meditation, or not really meditation. It's you can train your eyes and see those things that are actually important for the object to draw it. Because here as well, I started drawing things, and like I never did the whole thing, draw like very quick shapes of the whole thing. Now I started on top, did like detail, get down, detail, and then you see the whole thing, and it's just completely distorted, as you never drew the whole picture, so to say. You just were concentrating on a specific part of the element you were trying to draw. Jack, have you ever done figure drawing? I don't know if I think it's called figure drawing, where you have specific poses for a certain amount of time, sometimes just half a minute or something, and they vary like depending on the event. Sometimes you have a whole hour to draw a person. That's also something that amazed me on like afterwards I feel completely exhausted as it feels like when you do like a 2-hour session, even with various poses, you concentrate so hard that you forget everything around you, and just trying to get the poses right. It's pretty cool experience as well. And for that purpose, there's a pretty cool Vimeo channel. Somebody recommended me a few months back. It's called Grocky's Cafe. And basically they upload videos of nude models. And they're not, it's not photos, it's actually those nude models standing there for a certain amount of time. Now I got a weird bug here with KRITA. Sometimes it's just going bonkers. So yeah, those videos are pretty interesting. And I suppose you could do the same just with photos. And time out like the period that you want to spend on drawing one pose. But even there, I find it sometimes very difficult to find poses that are natural in case of for studies, like just somebody standing there but having kind of a natural pose. Sometimes it's also very helpful to capture a still from a kind of a clip. Just use that in the middle of the movement maybe. So you've done live figure drawing, yeah? It's also a thing that I heard so many animators preaching, like the old animators on Disney. They preach that live drawing is an immense boost for your skill set. Okay. There is no sock on this leg. Holy shit, there's a sock. Just down there. So this sock. Maybe we want to have it somewhere in between. we put it there for a reason, I suppose, at one point. So we just trust the process. Okay, and we do it again. And I like the dark, inky brush because it feels you don't get the same feeling when you draw on a tablet as you do when you draw on paper. But I feel like drawing with ink on paper is a similar experience as what I'm doing exactly right now. And I think what I'm doing exactly right now is because it feels the most similar to drawing on paper. Because the pencil aesthetic looks cool, but actually drawing is not the same feeling. It's different on a tablet. And there are those protection films for the iPad that simulate paper texture. I've never tried them. I saw knobs for the tip of your pen that give you more friction and the sensation of drawing on paper. But, well, it's not paper. So sometimes the medium directly gives you the aesthetic. I found that very true when actually drawing on paper. Like every pen feels, well, not every pen, but feels different if you draw with a ball pen or a felt pen, and both tools end up in different aesthetics. And that's something I really find interesting. So it's basically impossible for me to go in any art supply store not buying a new pen. And I'm not talking about very expensive pens. Like it's a very or a fairly easy hobby. So it's just sometimes you spend €2. I think I never spent more than €5. And I like that. I love going to art supply stores. The same as I like to go to bookstores. It has this creative vibe. Yeah, but the only thing is I'm not really able to go into those stores and buying anything. Bookstores, especially when you have a specialized bookstore on art, design, or a comic store. A comic store is impossible for me not to buy it, because at least you can buy a comic for less than €2, and so what the heck. So tell me about your problems. Your wife banned you from bookstores. Yeah. But it's... I don't know. I always feel like I'm doing something good here. Like books, paper, this is some kind of medium that feels like it's about to extinct, and I'm supporting the art form. I don't know what it is about. It just feels good to be around books somehow. And although you have all the kind of references you want in the world now in the internet, I prefer like just taking, if I have the option and if I have a specific book for what I need at that moment, I totally get the book. I look for the book, and it's just a complete different thing. And I'm only talking about those books with a lot of photos in it, like novels and all that stuff. I also enjoy like having them. Although I'm not a big reader, but I was thinking about those ebooks as novels and all that stuff is something you consume, and then you're done with it normally. When I read more like books on certain topics where sometimes mark things, or just probably want to have the book around afterwards as well. There was one reason I didn't want to have those ebooks. But on the other side, like novels and all that stuff, once you read a book, it's quite unlikely that you read it again, isn't it? And then suddenly you have all that books. Which you normally only realize once you have to move. Those are always the heaviest boxes. And I thought, I don't know if it exists, but I thought it would be a cool thing to have some kind of platform where you can exchange your books. You have some kind of a wish list, what books would be interesting for you and what you can offer in exchange. Look at that, like I don't know what's happening. I didn't do anything else, but this is what's only happening here. Now I start what? Okay. Maybe he doesn't like the position. Oh, look at that, it's only on that. Now this is... Oh, you reread books? Oh, nice. That's I do have a few books I reread once in a while. Not a few, there's one specific book. And if you are a creative and think about going freelance, try panning the view. Oh, I think it already, yeah, by zooming in or something like that, it helped. Yeah, talking about the book that helped me to do the freelancing, the step to freelance life. It is called The Freelance Manifesto, and it's written by Joey Coran, man. the founder of motion design, of School of Motion. And the book is very, very helpful to do the scary step to freelancing. And that book, as the foreword is quite inspirational and motivational, I rewrite it every once in a while. I don't rewrite it, I reread it. So definitely recommend that book if you think about going freelance and still have your doubts and it's definitely a scary thing to do, but I haven't regretted for one day. All right. Unexpected challenges from being freelance. I think the biggest challenge still is to gain the trust of a agency, a client, or whatever to hire you, especially when you work from home. I'm mostly working for international clients. I'm sitting here in my studio. I don't go to the client's place, so that can be a scary thing for clients. And I can absolutely understand their fear, as I had to work as well with freelancers that had to help me out in projects. And when you contact somebody because you like his work, you have no idea how this person actually works, like his workflow. How fast is the person, how reliable, how flexible, how fast is he responding or she. That's things that I found very scary, and I found myself in positions where I really got like stressed because I haven't heard anything from the other person, and there were miscommunications from the beginning on. So that's a big challenge that I try to overcome all the time in order to gain the trust of your clients, and mostly it's the most difficult thing is to get your foot in there. And I feel once you have your foot in there and you can deliver, because I always try to reduce the distance as much as possible. So I try to answer mails within at least, well, latest 1 hour. I try to keep the client all the time posted where I am right now, especially for producers. When you start the first time, I normally over communicate, but normally I try to establish that with the client from the beginning, so to not be the guy that calls every 5 minutes. But at the beginning, I feel like it's very important to get a feeling for your client, and your client gets a feeling for you. So yeah, I would definitely say that this is a big thing. And now, during the pandemic, as everybody is forced to work from home, it's actually a pretty cool opportunity to get your foot into studios or companies where you would think they prefer in-house, having their freelancers in-house. But this is not an option. Now you can definitely take advantage of this situation and try to get your foot in during these weird times. as they're now way more open for people working from home. Check, are you freelancing? And how far are you in your studies? Because I'm not really sure if you're still studying. As you said, yeah, like you studied 3D. See. Oh, you're working on your bachelor's, all right. How is this working? Do you have like a 1 semester to prepare your project? Back then when I studied, it was basically we had what, like half a year to finish our final piece. And I remember like I went off to Barcelona to do my diploma piece, my diploma project. When I came back, like I had like the 6 months of my life. But I came back and saw all my study colleagues, they seem like they haven't left their house for 6 months, and I could have done the whole 6 months all over again. So how far are you in? Do you get already the creeps, or is everything under control? I mean, when you're texturing now a character that you did, well, this could be just a character of many, or is the character design and texturing, all that, basically your work? Half a year to prepare and half a year to complete. Oh wow, nice. Pandemic kind of messed things up a little, but I should be done in a couple of weeks. Just gonna finish the paper once the character's completed. Sweet. Well, best of luck with that. And okay, let's see what we have so far. Okay, for the sake of the animation, we could already somehow, oh, look at that, there's some things missing here of the user interface. Why didn't I see those? Now they're back. No, I wanted to duplicate that frame. And later, when we painted it, I gotta duplicate it again. Because this is basically the same frame. The same pose. Just moving it a little bit further down the x-axis. What tablet do you use? Right now I'm using the Cintiq, I think it's called Pro HD. It was when I bought it like 2 years back. Was the only option for the 16 inch. It has a 4K resolution. Now they brought out a Cintiq Pro or Cintiq HD 16 inch, which is basically full HD and not 4K. And I feel that is more than sufficient, so I would definitely, if you're not really sure, I don't know, I wouldn't go with the 4K. Basically, I never use it on 4K because with 4K your resolution is everything gets so small that it's kind of weird. And Jack over there on Twitch says he has a 13 inch, which is the smallest one, Cintiq HD 13. And I would imagine like this is like bigger and bigger. Of course, you have some kind of advantages, and I would definitely prefer the 27 inch Cintiq. But it's no excuse for your animation, and it's just a little bit of a hassle. But for example, right now, look at, I need my user interface. I get my keyframe. Now I push the tab button, and I have the whole screen to work on. And if this was 13 inch, I'm pretty sure I would be able to do the same animation on a 13-inch tablet. I've never used... You use the Intuos Pro? The Intuos, I think it's not a monitor tablet, right? You draw on your tablet, but you watch your monitor. Like you watch your monitor, but your tablet that you draw on is down there. Because I had an Intuos before. Because as I said, I bought the Cintiq 2 years ago, but I've been into frame-by-frame animation for 4 years now. And if it's the... Indeed, yeah. Okay, so it's a difference. It's a big difference when you do animation. Yeah, it's a big difference, let's say. For me, it changed a lot as the feeling is so much different. And I felt like I can work so much more precisely, which helps a lot when you do frame-by-frame animation and you want to get those slow movements where your drawings only differ a little bit from each other, and you want to make sure you get this line pretty close to the one you had in the previous drawing, and that makes it so much more easier when you actually put the pen where you want to draw. With the Intuos, I always had the feeling like I'm guessing somehow. Every time you lift the pen and put it down again, it's... Yeah. Do you use your Intuos for just for drawing, or do you animate? Because I would say, like, just for drawing, there's definitely a big difference. But I don't know if just for drawing or illustrating, the difference is so life-changing. Let's say, let's make it that dramatic. And Jack says, don't like the bigger ones, too much room that I don't need. That is true. And also, it depends what you do. Before I was the same... When I bought the Cintiq, I bought at first the previous model. There were like 21... No, not 20, yeah, 21 inch. They were huge, where you had those secondary buttons and all that stuff on the frames. Oh, sorry. But they were huge indeed. Like, you had this whole structure that was where it was on, so you have a lot of space occupied by the tablet. That's why I thought, like, I feel like the 16 inches is more flexible. I can take it with me when I travel if I have to. But now when I started to draw actually and started to use this technique where I actually try not to put down my elbow, it feels like a 27 inch would be nice, as you have so much more surface to draw on, so you can use the whole surface with your hand and draw on that. And with the 16 inch it's different. But those are like things that you figure out once you have your tablet, and until now those were things that didn't bother me too much, and I'm happy with my 16 inch. What I don't like about it though is the fan of it. I feel like I start drawing and 5 minutes in, like, the tablet feels like it's lifting off as it's blowing like crazy. Okay, Jochen does frame-by-frame animation on the Intuos. which, dude, I started like that, and I think you can do brilliant stuff on an Intuos. And as you said, it's a little bit harder. I would agree. But if you can master it on an Intuos and have the opportunity in the future to get your a Cintiq or some monitor tablet, everything you've done is just gonna help you out, and everything is gonna be easier. So whatever you do now with the Intuos is basically just training your skills. What program do you use, Jochen, when you do frame-by-frame animation? Do you have any experience on KRITA? Because until now, Jack on Twitch always had to help me out. And we are looking for more people that can bring in their input to the software, so we all can learn it together. Because we are a happy family here at Started Frame War. The weirdest thing, I still have the Wacom Intuos, but it's completely useless because apparently you don't have any drivers anymore to connect it. I don't know how old this thing is. It's probably over 15 years, the one that I have. I don't have an Intuos Pro, I have an Intuos 5 or something like that. Okay, Jochen does animate in Photoshop, and you didn't know KRITA. Me neither. Like, this is the second stream we use it, and I can tell you it's. I don't know if you use NMDecimal or any other script for Photoshop animation. Starting with KRITA was pretty easy. Like, everything you see now is done in KRITA, and it's, compared with Photoshop, it is pretty awesome, at least for my needs and what I normally do. So I can highly recommend it to you. Download the software, it's completely free, and start to experiment. And we started this stream today, and we wanted to check out the option of the vector layers, because apparently KRITA is like Toon Boom, where you have the option to draw pixel based like Photoshop, or vector based like Animate, so you have both in one software. We didn't find the right tools to draw on those. Well, we found one tool to draw on those vector layers, but I didn't find the option to get pressure sensitivity, which is kind of what I was looking for this character. So I decided to go back to pixel based layers and drawing now with the brush tool. Jochen likes Photoshop because you can draw all textures and stuff pretty easy. I totally agree. I never liked drawing in Animate as it feels so cold. I don't know if you know what I mean. Okay, Jack is heading out. I should be back in an hour or so if he's still streaming. I'm not sure, but thanks a lot for joining again. Hope I see you on Monday, and try to check your Twitter if you like tonight. I'm willing to do a night stream to continue the process here and get everything a little bit faster done. And until now, it seems like I can find the time to do it. So maybe see you tonight again. And yeah, back to the Photoshop animation and drawing textures and stuff. I totally agree with you. I much more like drawing in Photoshop instead of animate. Animate I basically only use to do cleanup stuff, and only if the aesthetics fit the whole vector stuff. And Photoshop mostly was, as you surely know, as it's just adapted to animation, it's lagging a lot of options that you have, for example, already in Animate, and it makes it so much easier just with the administration part of your whole project and the frames, add in frames and all that. Pretty difficult. Merging layers, animation layers is horrible in Photoshop. And that's why I really enjoy KRITA here, because the drawing feels the same as in Photoshop. I don't know what textures you use, what brushes. If you have your go-to brushes, you probably find your limitations here in KRITA. But I tend to use only those regular brushes, which are perfectly fine here in KRITA. Right. What the hell? And yeah, the other option is always the iPad now can be connected to the computer. Well, I don't know how is it, how's the compatibility. That's not the word. With the PC. I think there was before Apple introduced the sidecar function, which I never tried. There was the app called what was the name? Rocket Launch. Just check it. But they were way faster than Apple to connect the iPad to the computer, or to the Mac at least. But due to the Cintiq, I never really had the necessity to connect my iPad. I tried it once just to see how it works, but as it didn't work as plug and play and I had problems from the beginning on, I got bored. Just connected the Cintiq, so. But animating on the iPad is awesome. I love it. And I do a lot of my animations first on the iPad with an app that is called Rough Animator. And afterwards I export it, I upload it on my Dropbox, and then have access on my Mac or the PC to do cleanup or refining it with Photoshop or animate. But what I really liked from the beginning on the rough animator is the user interface. As you hold the iPad in your hands, you have pretty cool functions. Just like I'm left-handed, so and you can switch it. It asks you at the beginning if you're left or right-handed, and then accordingly you have your tools on the other hand that you're not used to for drawing. So you have like a wheel where you can scroll through the frames and have everything on your right hand, which makes it pretty cool to animate, and you don't have to click around that much. I think that's something I always look for to make the processes less user interface dependent as possible, if that makes sense. I hate it if I to spend so much time on clicking on stuff, and I use shortcuts and try to have everything on hand. And that's also something I feel where Photoshop is, the adaptation of Photoshop to frame-by-frame animation is pretty cool. But once you do it quite often, there's always things that you're gonna find out which you would like to improve and you're not that happy with, but I don't know, after all, I'm pretty happy with every program that allows me to animate. And then you just look for the way with least friction for your workflow. So yeah, we will see how if I do a stream tonight, it should be around 8:30, 9. I don't schedule the night streams as I don't want to commit to my night plan. Sometimes I just feel like I want to draw and be on my own. And sometimes I just don't have the time. But it was pretty fun yesterday. And it's always nice if you sit alone at home doing that stuff, to have somebody to chat with. So those spontaneous live streams I normally post on Twitter. And I feel like this is the kind of platform people check more often, as the frequent of posts of tweets seem much higher than on other platforms. I haven't been a very big tweeter until now. And even now I'm so haven't addressed the importance of you people who may like the content of this video, of this channel, to maybe consider hitting this like button, or even going the extra mile and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment or hit that little bell to get notifications whenever I do streams, and maybe spontaneous streams. So yeah, helps out the channel pretty much. Every kind of friction we get. And I'm always open for suggestions, constructive critique, and willing to improve this whole thing here constantly. It's now been 2 weeks. Well, this is number 8. That's already like 3 weeks in. And so far I have a blast. It's really fun. And I want to make sure everybody else feels the same way. But I don't know that if you feel the same way. If you don't, let me know. All right, enough of the sale talk here. This is art. And for those of you who haven't joined the streams before, we had a hard time to figure out what those things under the tentacles are called. We had Chris, who was kind enough to shed the light on this mystery, and they are suction cups, and they are called suckers. So I want to make sure that you at least take with you this piece of knowledge. So even if you're not into animation, maybe you have interest in octopus anatomy and now can excel with your friends, knowing that those are suckers. All right, Jochen, thanks so much for joining. Been a pleasure, and hope I see you soon. pretty weird how the quality of your strokes change after now more than 2 hours of drawing that. You already, I already feel like every stroke is way more precise compared to the first drawing. We had to overdo some of the strokes because they didn't feel very clean. And now I feel like it's way easier. I forgot this little detail. Okay. Ah. So KRITA seems to have this little problem here, this bug. I can get rid of sometimes when I move the canvas or zoom in, as Jack recommended to me earlier today. And it's fairly easily going away, but it's also kind of annoying. But it happens in Photoshop as well. Like sometimes you just get, Photoshop just ignores suddenly your pressure, sensitivity, or whatsoever. How far are we in? Like we're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 more images, 10 more drawings. And I would say we wrap this up for today. Or not for today. For now. And let's do this night stream today. Let's say 9 p.m. Central European time. Be there or be hexagon. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. It's been a pleasure. KRITA continues to be quite a nice program. I enjoy very much. And yeah, let's continue to work on the tentacle boy and finish this animation so we can start the next one. I'm already like pretty excited. No idea what we're gonna do next. Any suggestions are brilliant. We can discuss what we're gonna draw next. Leave a comment, hit the like button, share with your friends, whatever. Help to spread the word. And let's keep this thing growing. So thanks a lot. See you later. If not, have a great weekend. Next week again, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's 2 p.m. on Twitch and YouTube. Started from 1. My name is Andy. Thanks a lot for joining and See you next time.